I am so grateful to be here today, and I'm very glad that George Washington University is hosting this with Agree and MSU and the University of DC as well. So thank you for providing this platform for folks to talk and engage. How many of you guys have been here since early this morning? Still feeling energetic, right? You feeling good? All right. I've been asked to talk about my work around reaching urban youth. So I have actually spent a good chunk of my career working on connecting kids to food, ag, land, and place. I actually have been working on food and farm policy for a while. I started a nonprofit called Food Corps that basically works on getting young people into schools to help create healthy school food environments. And then for the last 2 years, I've been working in the Obama administration as the woman who's running Let's Move, the First Lady's Initiative, and also the Senior Nutrition Policy Advisor. And basically, what this all comes down to for why we need to be focusing on our youth is very plain and simple, that they are our future, right? We should be investing in our kids and doing what's right for them so they can actually reach their fullest potential. That's not rocket science, right? Right? And the thing is that a lot of times you need to make the case. You need to make the business case. You need to make sure people understand that this is our national security at risk. You need to talk about the economic case for it. You need to talk about how this is really about the future of our nation, right? And so the First Lady has been very unique in using her platform to reach people where they're at. You'll notice in the Nick Offerman video, right? It was the 60th anniversary of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. Also note that nutrition was added during the Obama administration to the President's Council, showcasing the focus on that as a key piece of our future. But just think about that, 60th anniversary. It's like, how are you gonna get that out, right? What are the fun ways that we could do that? How are you gonna make people pay attention, 60th anniversary? So we partnered with Funny or Die and Nick Offerman to make a fun exercise video, right? So a lot of times the First Lady gets known for doing push-up contests with Ellen, that she wins. She's known for going to the Safeway. Actually, it was in DC, it was my first week on the job, and we did the Billy Eichner piece with Sesame Street. Do you guys remember the First Lady dancing with Big Bird? You guys remember that moment? Like, the reason she did that funny thing and was doing this piece with Billy Eichner was to showcase this Eat Brighter campaign. And this Eat Brighter campaign is about how Sesame Street characters are licensed for free for the produce industry to use because kids are more likely to eat fruits and vegetables when there's a furry, funny character on it, when there's a Muppet. And believe it or not, it works. Now the produce industry has seen an increase of fruit and vegetable purchases from 5 to 11% because we're doing that. So a lot of times people are just like looking at the stuff that's breaking through, but there's real substance behind all of it. Because the First Lady is very good at understanding what we need to do to get our message across. Which is why when we're working on reaching kids and talking about reaching urban kids, what's the very first thing the First Lady did when she moved to the White House? Tell me. She planted the garden, right? She broke ground, March in 2009, creating the White House kitchen garden. And we've had hundreds of kids since who've been helping us and planting and harvesting it. It's the #1 question that she gets from world leaders to the president is, how is your garden? This is more than just a symbol, right? But that's one of the things that you can do to make sure, like, what are you doing in your communities? What are your elected officials doing? What's the hospital doing? What's the YMCA, do they have a place for kids that are engaging outside, that they're using the garden, do they have a culinary program? What are they doing in a way that they're actually engaging youth, right? So one of the pieces that I just want to stress to everybody around what we've been focusing on for the last almost over 6.5 years in this administration, specifically with the First Lady's priorities, has been opening up the White House to kids. And so one that was through the kitchen garden, but another was we started the Kids State Dinner. So we actually had the Healthier Lunchtime Challenge for the last 5 years, where kids would create these healthy recipes that met the My Plate guidelines and met the Healthier School Lunch guidelines. And then they got a chance, when they won in their state, they got a chance to come to the White House and came to a Kids State dinner. And now there's a cookbook. There's been 5 cookbooks, and these are recipes the kids created, and they're absolutely amazing. But again, she's opened up the White House in very creative ways to kids. I mean, we had a camp out. You guys remember that? We had a Girl Scout camp out in the lawn, first ever camp out on the lawn last year to highlight the importance of kids getting outside and being outdoors. So all of these things, right, we've done it in a way to engage kids. But you guys all know that if we're actually going to do what we need to do for our kids, we need to look at everything from the multidimensional and faceted way that we need to, which is a lot of people work on programs. Like how many of you guys work in the nonprofit space working on actual programs, right? Critically important. Need to be keeping to do that, right? Nutrition education. You got to keep working on building those gardens, all those pieces. But how many of you work on policy? Great. Absolutely important. Have to continue to keep doing that. I'm going to run through just a couple of the policy pieces that we have focused on that you might not see in a Nick Offerman video, you might not see when we're dancing on Ellen, but is just as important of actually getting the message across. One of the most important things that we possibly could have done while the Obama administration leading this way was in 2010 in passing the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, which was for the very first time in 30 years updated the nutrition standards based off of what pediatricians were saying that our kids should be eating. First time in 30 years, right? Happened in 2010. It was a big deal. Now, kids, that is just how it is. It's what they're used to, right? It's the new norm. Now they're expecting to see it in schools. That's 50 million kids have access to healthier school meals and snacks now because of that. And it's not just about the school lunch. We just finalized the rules where you can no longer serve our market food in schools that don't meet nutrition standards. That's also huge. That's a big deal. You're talking about a kid's life for 13 years, 180 days out of their life, that they're now going to be in this new environment. And we have to continue to find ways to support that, right? So that's one policy piece. Another is about the nutrition facts label, which I hope everyone is like so very proud of, because that is something where, again, that's a revamped label, it's a refreshed design, and it's actually highlighting the nutrients of concern and making it easier to understand with the bigger calories and highlighting added sugars. Again, this was something that the FDA championed and we debuted in May of this year. On top of that, eliminating trans fats. I mean, I hope people feel and understand the momentum that has been occurring during this administration on everything that we've done across all the different federal food policies to ensure we're doing what's right by our kids. So that's the policy piece, right? So another part of it is when you guys are thinking about like what else can you do that's what else can we do that's more, right? What are we taking to the next level in regards to reaching our kids? I want you to think about what you are doing in your day-to-day that is getting the youth involved. Do you have a mentoring up program? Are you doing something where you are having a child or you're having some kind of engagement where they're a part of the professional development experience, right? How are you investing in kids in your community, right? It's like a little bit of a personal challenge to folks to find ways to drive this home in your day-to-day life, right? Another one is to ensure that just as a check on yourself, a lot of times when I have actually printed on my desk at work, I have a quote from the president about ensuring that the only way that we're going to feel good coming out of this administration is that we've done everything we could to do what's right for our kids, right? It's like, are you living your lives that way, day in and day out? Like, is it what you're working on, whether it's like, name something that you guys did today. Someone raise their hand. What did you do today or this week that you would feel like you're proud of that you did what's right for the next gen? Does anyone have an example they'd like to share? Any volunteers? Go ahead.
Working on lead and drinking water in schools.
Excellent. What's your name?
Onan.
And where do you work?
I work for the DC Council.
Awesome. Anyone else? Anyone else feel good about what they did this week? You guys, it's Friday. You should be feeling real good. Go ahead.
Global health security agenda.
Excellent.
Set up an event for next week.
See? He's thinking about next week. That's good. I like it. Working on this week. I see you, AmeriCorps.
Well, we carpooled here from
That's a great example, actually. I love it. Big and small, it's all good. Go ahead.
I walked in a gay pride parade with children whose parents were gay couples.
Awesome. Others?
I've doubled people's SNAP and WIC values for fresh fruits and vegetables at a farmer's market.
Wow.
Crossroads Community Food Network.
Oh, here are the snaps. You got snaps. Well done. Go ahead.
We served a food course, so we were teaching gardening lessons.
Hey! I hope you guys are all like, all of that was just said. I'm pretty sure you all kept that to like a tweet-worthy comment. I think that was under 140 characters. You should be totally pushing that out and using whatever this conference is using for their tweets, because that's really beautiful. You guys are committed and you're doing that, and I hope that you're channeling that energy and you're getting others to do it as well, because that's what this is all about. You guys are the ones that are making it happen, and you're stepping up. And that is something else that I just want to I want to stress before I bring in our additional friends here for our conversation. But I hope folks realize that we are in a really amazing time in this work. It's really, really exciting. I feel like we have such tremendous momentum on the policy front. We have so much momentum on the idea of the people that we're investing in, the next gen. On the promotion front, we have all new social media tools at our disposal to help get our message across. The First Lady does not have a budget. You guys know that, right? Yeah, we're the first digital office of the First Lady, right? We have the Snapchat account, we have our Twitter account, we've got our Instagram account. There's so many devices that when I started working in this space, put out a press release. That's all we had, right? I mean, you guys have this conference. And you realize how many people are live streaming this and participating that way. And I love that y'all showed up, I really do, love it. But you have a whole new world of communicating what you're doing and how you're doing it for this audience and to reach kids where they're at, right? And to get our message across. So it is so incredibly exciting. And I just hope people feel that. This is a new era in our work, and we are truly going to be doing what's right for our kids. We are going to be so proud of every single day when a kid goes into a school cafeteria, into a school, we are going to be yeah, this is America's School Lunch Program, and we love it. We're going to feel proud, and we're going to love it. So with that in mind, I actually want to bring up two incredibly important people who have actually been part of my world for a good chunk of time. Maddie Morales, who is a former Food Corps fellow and now works at the USDA with FSA. And then as well, we have Rebecca Lemos Otero, who works at City Blossoms, who has been a service site for Food Corps as well. And we're just gonna kind of have a very lively dialogue about reaching urban youth. Hi. Hi. Good to see you. So we haven't prepared, I just want you to know. So this is very real, guys. This is very authentic. Because one thing I'd love to just throw out at you is I love talking about the vision of this work, right? In the ideal world, what the day-to-day would be when a child walks into the cafeteria and the meal experience they would have. And to give you time to think about that, because I want you to paint that picture for our friends, I just did this with a group of chefs for a Chef Musical Strategy session. And it was so incredibly beautiful that we talked about and this is very fun, you guys should totally do this at home tonight. Talk about your favorite meal in school lunch as a kid growing up, your favorite meal now in school lunch, and what your favorite meal would be and that experience would be into the future for the next generation. And there were a couple times where the comment was, I'm going to say this because I don't think it's real, but I don't think we'll get there because it's just not going to be possible with the budget or da-da-da. But if everything was perfect, we would do this. But I'm no, you're visioning, right? Open it up, right? The art of the possible is based on people. People are what change policy and programs and communities, right? So if we don't have to limit our vision when we're talking about the future because it's on us. It's on us to do it. So with that, what is your vision?
This is big.
And this is Maddie, by the way.
I mean, it's fun to dream big and to think big. And I think you can go down all these different paths of, well, the kids make it and grow it and cook it. But I think at the end of the day, what's really important is that the space is welcoming and feels like you want to be there. And I think that can be a small space, that can be a big space, but it's really up to each individual community and each individual school to dream about what that is. So for me personally, I think there would be water in the background, there would be kids growing vegetables and cooking them, and probably preparing it just for me.
For me, the vision has always been around creating situations where kids can take leadership roles so that they're really owning whatever movement is that they're creating with their neighbors and teachers and families. So for us, it's really how can we create spaces and programming and activities where they really are the main stewards, where they're the main cooks. And not just cooking it because we guided it, but because they have started the conversation and are moving it along.
Love it.
That's
beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful.
Can we put you on the spot? And you've done lots of traveling around the country and seen lots of amazing things. What is something that sticks out for you as an ideal school meal setting?
Yeah, I go along with Rebecca on this around, to me, the ideal is the same as like the kids being involved in that process. Like I want them to be engaged fully and understanding how it was grown, so to be some kind of access to either gardening or a farm that's close by, to then also having some kind of touch with a culinary program. Maybe it's once a month that they're helping to make the meal, but like that they're actually engaged in cooking it. And then that it's like the holistic component of investing in the child, that they are part of like the serving and actually having enough time to eat together during the school day, and also have it part of the curriculum in different pieces. So you would have cooking where you learn your fractions, right, while you're cooking, different pieces like that. So it's incorporated throughout. That's kind of my vision. My other part of this that was just really detail oriented was like I love sugar snap peas. It is one of my most favorite foods right on the planet, and it's really hard to get really good snap peas, right? Because you're eating them straight fresh. And it's like economically not very viable as a farmer. Like it's like it takes a lot of time to harvest, and then they bring it to the farmers markets. Like you couldn't pay for the time to labor. Like anyway, so imagine if kids would be grabbing their sugar snap peas before lunch, and then you could take that step away. Like anyway, I think it would be so amazing if that was what it was the future.
For me, I was just wondering kind of what are programs that you've seen that we want to highlight. For us, we saw one recently in North New York where it was a group of young people in kind of like parts of Brooklyn that you don't go to when you visit New York on a regular basis, and them using the opportunity of their spaces to sell back to their communities so that they were seen not just as someone consuming but giving back. So I don't know if you'd seen other projects like that.
Yeah. Actually, with the First Lady, we did a American Garden tour, and we did a couple stops. And one of my most memorable and favorite was when we went to Georgia, and this was Donna Martin's rural school district. And they are a CEP school, and so the kids are getting their breakfast and lunch free. And Farmer Pete, they had a full-time farmer on staff as part of the 6-county meal system. And Farmer Pete had graduated from that school, had been through FFA. 1979 was when he graduated. Now I'm dating him. Was when he got out of FFA, and he walked me through their garden, and the First Lady and Al Roker through the garden, and he was showing us like the collard greens that we then ate. And the collard greens were so insanely good. And like I grew collard greens and I thought they were good, but it was like the sweetness, and it was absolutely divine. And the kids all knew him. All the kids knew their farmer. And then when we ate, they ate everything. Like, cause they were part of the process, right? They consumed all their trays where it was baked chicken, it was collard greens, it was a cornmeal biscuit that was so good. It was like they had this everything was just like tasty and fresh, and like since the kids were part of it, and like to me it was like that. And it was, again, we're in rural Georgia, right? And it was culturally appropriate food. Everything was meeting the price points, and like it was just delicious. And it was great. I can't talk more. Literally my mouth is watering thinking about these collard greens. So I throw that back to you guys, like, because you too have been, like, in your experience with Food Corps, but also just to give, like, we all know there's also reality of where we are now with staff. If you could eliminate one challenge from the work that you've been having over the last several years, from ensuring that kids are having access to healthy food, what would be that challenge that you would eliminate?
I think the biggest issue is the challenge of time, and that there are so many pressures on time, especially during the school day. Kids are being asked to do everything, be brilliant at math and science, and teachers are being asked to do everything. Parents are being asked to do everything. So I see that just the little bit of time that I was able to put in as a Food Corps member made such a huge difference for a teacher who wasn't able to plan a lesson, or a parent that wasn't able to think about dinner for that evening. And giving more time and availability to divert some attention to these issues that are really a big deal.
What about you?
I'd like to see more collaboration. That's always a challenge. It's always seen that this kind of work is on the side, like you were saying, is time-wise, but kind of seeing collaboration where who else can come into the school to talk about this? How can the kids access different resources when it comes to food? How does it go back home, like you were saying? And just kind of seeing more of a web approach versus like, this is the time for food and this is the time for gardening and that's it. I'd like to see it kind of webbed into more activities. And more.
That's a really good point, because I think time is the challenge, but also the opportunity, because you see that food is applicable to everyone and everything. So why not teach math and food at the same time? Or get the dinner portion out of the way and also learn about science.
Yeah. What about what is a player that you feel we have not been bringing to the table that we should be doing more of? Is there a specific industry or sector that you would be like, if this would make a significant difference if X would engage more? Does anything come to mind, like right off the bat?
For me, it's not a particular player, it's teenagers. I feel that we concentrate a lot on elementary and we're starting to concentrate on early childhood, and I think teenagers as advocates for their own stuff is always important. And especially if we're talking about urban cities or rural areas even, just having them be part of the conversation or bringing them to the table versus activities happening for them or to them, I think would be incredibly powerful.
So while I was a Food Corps member, this may seem like an obvious answer, but while I was a Food Corps member, my office was behind the nurse's office. So it was like I think it was a storage room, to be honest. But I had a little computer in there and a desk, and you had to walk through the nurse's office to get to my office. So I spent some time in there planning, and I was always overhearing what was going on in the nurse's office, which was often, my belly hurts or these silly things where I was like, guys, you just have to eat breakfast, or like, these are simple solutions. But the nurse, on the other hand, when we tried to have a dialogue, she was under all of these pressures, and her sort of remedies for the problems were maybe not something that I would do, or that as a Food Corps member we would think about doing. But it seemed like the school nurse was really left out of the picture. And the school nurse had this amazing relationship with the parents and with the families, because they all had to come in at this particular school. All the families had to come in and talk to her and get eye exams and all sorts of things. So she was very connected to that outside piece of what happens outside of the school walls, and then also saw the kids every day. So school nurses, that would be mine.
Nice.
Yeah.
So a lot of this work, especially for you two, has been about like creating a pathway for kids to engage. And so what is the easiest, if someone wants to get started, like they're like, I don't know what to do, like what is the easiest way for someone to get this going for doing in their own community? The first step.
I would say the first step is just having a kind of community meeting, flyering around and getting a bunch of people together to have the conversation. Or if it's a teacher in a classroom, leading some kind of activity that starts just a conversation of what kind of thing would we want to do. And be like, do we want to do a garden? Do we want to do a cookbook? I always love cookbooks as a good kind of project that you can lead up to. Do we want to collect recipes? Do we want to go out into our neighborhood and explore what kind of food people are eating and talk about that and have conversations with other people? So I think just getting a group, whether it's kids, adults, and just being like, what do we want to do? And going from there. And there's so many resources now that are online, that are, like Let's Move, that are fantastic. And so I think if people can have access to that and come together, there's definitely some possibilities for at least the beginning steps.
Yeah, I have to say, it's such the perfect answer about because I remember in starting with back in the day with the National Farm to School Network, there was a food service director who said to me, she's like, honey, she's like, it's all about R&D, and I was like, research and development? And she's like, no, rip off and duplicate. It's like, there's no reason you should feel the need to start from scratch, especially now with a lot of this work. You have people who've been doing this and know it, but it still gets to that first meeting, right? Of finding out what do you want to do, but after that, there's so many great resources. There's whole books now about how to start a school garden, and there are amazing cookbooks. And it's just nice to know, you're not alone out there if you want to do this in your community. It really just takes the energy and the passion of bringing people together. So do you have any other addition to that?
Yeah, I would just say start with the small successes, and sometimes it can even feel overwhelming to gather an entire room full of people to have a conversation about what the dream is. But even just starting with an herb in your window or something small, and feeling really confident about those small successes in a way that you want to share that and broaden it.
Love it. You guys have a question? Because I'm gonna keep doing this to them, and because I'm gonna be really selfish for a moment. I would love to know your personal takes on this. So if you had any question or anything that you would like to share with the First Lady that you really want her to know, what would it be?
So many
on
things.
The spot.
I'm just like, what's appropriate?
Related to reaching urban youth.
Right, well, if it's urban youth, for me, it's space. I mean, if we could figure out, in DC, National Parks owns a lot of DC land. And so we don't always have access to it. And there's spaces that we could be using, not just for parks, but for gardens and for different kinds of safe kid spaces. And so in urban areas, we just came back from New York, and same thing, and how can we at least think about pocket gardens? And could, the First Lady help us kind of have a campaign around pocket gardens in urban areas so that every kid in every neighborhood has a green space where they can explore growing food and explore being just in nature together.
You were very good on the spot.
Yeah,
Did you notice that? That was so good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mine's gonna be
that's
as good.
We'll talk.
But I guess one of my questions would be, what are the opportunities specifically available for youth? And this kind of forgotten era of 18 to 24, what's out there for those kids and youth that need something productive to do and the resources? And is there something that we can do that answers that question that's maybe not college, maybe not a job, but somewhere in the middle that supports this kind of work?
Excellent. Awesome.
And have her call me on my personal cell phone, and we can talk about it more.
Okay. That's good. I appreciate that. And we'll follow up on them. But I'm curious, and I know we don't have that much time, but I'm curious around how, and actually, you know what, since we really don't have much time, is if you would just give one word for how you feel, where we are in this space of again, in urban youth and reaching them with food and agriculture, what would that word be that would just sum it up?
Getting started.
Now you cheated with 2 words. So,
Starting.
Sprouting.
Sprouting.
All
There
right.
you go.
This is my message to urban youth.
Or
Just
where we
one
are.
word that sums it up.
Where we are.
2 words.
Just having a little fun up here. You guys should do it too. You should tweet it out, what your one word is.
Oh yeah, hashtag urban egg. We're reaching urban
What's your one
youth
word?
here. My one word for where we are, present. I mean, it's here, it's now, it's happening.
All right.
I'll work on it.
And you?
Oh yeah, actually I hadn't thought about this. I would say hopeful. So thank you all for engaging in this, watching in this engagement, in this fun conversation. Is it weird that we're standing having this conversation with you guys? Do you find it weird? Because it feels like we're at dinner and like, you know, and just having this talk. So thank you guys. Rebecca and Maddie are amazing local assets that you guys should just know about. If anyone's wanting to work at all with urban youth, they are all stars and they know what's happening. I'm also local. I just work down the street. So happy to be helpful. And but thank you guys. I'm glad you all are here, and I'm like so thankful that we're having this conversation because we need to do more of it. So thanks everyone.
And thank you, Deb, for having the conversation.
I think we're all